On today's lecture video, we shall be examining one of the very important topics in law, which is what? Hierarchy of court. Throughout this night, everything we shall be examining has to do with hierarchy of court. And trust me when I say, if I am a person that is dealing on legal method, legal system, in fact, constitutional law, every aspect of our law, you must master hierarchy of court. But I'm mentioning this particular courses because they are the beginning phase of our journey into legal field. So today we shall be examining hierarchy of court, because hierarchy of court is very, very important when you are dealing with a lot of topics in law. One of them is judicial precedent. You cannot master the true meaning or principles of judicial precedent without mastering hierarchy of court. Through this thing now, everything that concerns judicial precedents, authorities will be more clearer to you, because this is the basis for case law application. So today we shall be looking at what? Hierarchy of courts. Now, under hierarchy of courts, we shall proceed in ascending order. I don't know whether I should stay here for more clarity. We shall proceed in ascending order, going downward. The first thing on our list is the Supreme Court. Now, when you talk about the Supreme Court basically is the court of last resort. And the provision for Supreme Court is contained under section 230 of the 1999 Constitution. Are we together? Now, when we talk about the Supreme Court is basically the court of last resort. When we say last resort, what do we mean? The Supreme Court is the apex of all courts. Prior to 1960 or before 1960 or within 1960, what happened is that when the Supreme Court gives a judgment, you can appeal. What we even have now is the Federal Supreme Court. So you can appeal from the judgment of Federal Supreme Court to the private court in London back then. Until 1963, when we then got our Republican Constitution that gave us the full-fledged autonomy as a nation. So after that time of 1963, we didn't have Supreme Court. Supreme Court became the court of last resort, meaning that anything the Supreme Court decide, you can only appeal it on the altar of Father Abraham or on the altar of Prophet Muhammad on the last day. You cannot do anything that Supreme Court have decided. So Supreme Court is the worst last resort when you are talking about hierarchy of court. Then we have the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal. So Court of Appeal now is close to Supreme Court. Before anything the Court of Appeal give as a judgment, the Supreme Court can overrule it, or Supreme Court can reverse the judgment. Now we have Supreme Court. Court of Appeal is bound by the Supreme Court. Are we together? Court of Appeal is bound by the Supreme Court, meaning that whatever Court of Appeal has given as a judgment, you can actually appeal it on the Supreme Court. Are we together? I hope you are following. So Supreme Court is the court of last resort. Court of Appeal, judgment of the Court of Appeal, they are bound by what? The Supreme Court. Court of Appeal is the second in the list when you are counting from what? Ascending order. So Court of Appeal, any judgment given by the Court of Appeal, you can appeal it to the Supreme Court. And as a matter of fact, Court of Appeal is bound by the decisions of the Supreme Court. Court of Appeal is provided under section what? 237 of the 1999 Constitution. The basic things you ought to know here now is, under the hierarchy of court, Supreme Court is the court of last resort. After them, the Father Abraham. Court of Appeal is the second in hierarchy. They are bound by what? The decisions of the Supreme Court. Another thing you ought to know again, because my plan is that after this lecture, you have nothing to worry about what? Hierarchy of court. When a matter, Supreme Court is made up of what? 5 justices. The full court of Supreme Court is made up of what? 5 justices. Court of Appeal is made up of what? 3 justices. So meaning that any matter that is decided or that is to be decided by the Supreme Court, they must reach up to what? 5 justices. Any matter that is going to be decided by the Court of Appeal, they must be up to what? 3 justices. It is a must. But another thing is, if the court wants to entertain anything that borders on what? Constitutional law, anything that suffers on a question of law, When the Supreme Court want to deal with anything that concerns a question of law, not a question of fact, like now, they want to interpret the Constitution, a particular section of the Constitution, the court must be in full. In full court, full capacity of Supreme Court is then what? 7 justices. Are we together? Ordinarily, if you are going to Supreme Court, no matter what matter you are going, whether contract law, whether aviation law, whether land law, you are taken to the Supreme Court, the full provision is that there must be up to 5 justices. But if it's dealing on what? Constitutional issues, interpretation of a sections, interpretation of a particular section of the Constitution that is very, very fundamental, there must be what? 7 justices. Then if it is Court of Appeal, they are dealing on a question of law, provision in constitutional law, there must be what? 5 justices. So the full court of Supreme Court is 7. The full court of Appeal is what? 5. Are we together? These are the basic things you are going to understand. Now let us move downward to other courts. But before we continue, I would like to encourage you to like the video and subscribe if you are interested in receiving video every single Wednesday and Saturday. So we used to post a video, a tutorial video. Who knows whether that video will help you? The only way to stay updated is to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Now we come to the words Federal High Court. When we talk about Federal High Court, State High Court, Industrial Court, Customary Court, Sharia Court, they are in the same category. Are we together? Now, Federal High Court and State High Court and Industrial Court, they are in equal hierarchy. You can say they are in concurrent jurisdiction, meaning that Federal High Court is not bigger than State High Court. State High Court is not bigger than Industrial Court. They are all in equal pedestal. But the difference is the matter they are handling. They are different in terms of matter. But unlike customary courts, or unlike Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, anything can go in there. But under here, because anything can go in here, because they are both what? This court. They are the papa and the mama. But here is not what goes into Federal High Court, is what goes into State High Court, is what goes into Industrial Court or Customary Court or Sharia Court. But they are in the same category. It's just like now, let me say, this person is your father, Supreme Court is your father, Court of Appeal is your mother. Then this Federal High Court, State High Court, Industrial Court, Customary Court, Sharia Court, they are children. So normally in family, children is children. So you may senior me in terms of age, but that does not mean that you are more liked or my mother cherish you because I don't know if you get the point I'm trying to explain. They are equal, but it depends on age. But age could be when they were found. For instance, State High Court is older than Federal High Court. Are we together? But age doesn't matter in law. What we are now checking is that they are equal. They are children of what? Supreme Court and Court of Appeal. Now the question is, what goes into Federal High Court? What goes into State High Court? What goes into Industrial Court? What goes into Customary Court? Because this is not pure constitutional law, I may not delve into their jurisdiction, but I will just point out relevant one you need to know. Then when we are treating jurisdiction, that is when we are going. That's why I'm telling you to subscribe, because you are going to miss a lot of tutorial video if you just come across this video and watch and finish without subscribing. The only way to receive notification is by subscribing. The Federal High Court is provided under Section 249 of the 1999 Constitution. Section 249. Then, the difference between Federal High Court and State High Court is just a thing one. Federal High Court have jurisdiction of matter it entertain under Section 252. So, under Section 252, Federal High Court has exclusive jurisdiction on issue of mining, issue of custom. By custom, I mean sea custom. I'm not talking about customary law. Sea custom. That is custom duties, export and all those things. Extradition. Federal High Court is dealing on that. And then issue between federal government and any of its agency. For instance, if you are suing University of Nigeria and Soka, if you are suing University of Ibadan, you are going to what? Federal High Court. Basically, any agency of the government, federal government you are suing, you go to what? Federal High Court. Then when you talk about State High Court, State High Court is also provided under Section 270 of the 1999 Constitution.
Law confusing? Let's make it simple. At lawmadesimplelegal.com, we break down the hardest legal concepts into easy-to-understand lessons. Whether you're a student, lawyer, or just curious, You'll find clear explanations and real case analyses across fields like criminal law, contract, tort, and constitutional law. This is where law becomes easy and practical. This platform was created by Kingsley Omenyi, simplifying the law for Nigerians and beyond. Visit lawmadesimpleLegal.com or simply scan us on Google to discover how easy law can be.
State High Court is a court that is deemed to have all jurisdictions. So any matter that is not within the exclusive jurisdiction of Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, Federal High Court, Industrial Court, or Customary Court goes as of right to State High Court, meaning that except if the court, if a constitution establishes a court and says that Federal High Court, you are responsible for what? Any issue between federal government and its agency or agency of government to anybody, you have jurisdiction. So State High Court, you cannot go there. But if the constitution didn't list anything and you want to file an action, the right court to go is State High Court. Are we together? The difference is that State High Court deals on all issues that is not listed within any other court. That is why we say it is deemed to be the court of unlimited jurisdiction. But majorly, issues of normal criminal offenses, civil offenses, contract, and all of them goes towards State High Court. It's not any necessary contract you take to Federal High Court. But any issue can go to State High Court, provided it is not within any other. I'm not teaching jurisdiction, so I must restrict it to what is necessary. Now we have Industrial High Court. Industrial Court is basically a court that is established under the amendment of, I think, third alteration 2010 that led to Industrial Court. Industrial Court was created to do what? To oversee any issue that deals on labor and employment. That is what you have to know about it for now. Then we have the Customary Court of Appeal. Pay attention. Customary Court of Appeal. You see this Customary Court of Appeal, any issue that is coming from this Customary Court here goes to Customary Court of Appeal. But any issue moving from Customary Court of Appeal goes to Court of Appeal. From Customary Court to Customary Court of Appeal. From Customary Court of Appeal to Court of Appeal. Are we together? Then we have again Sharia Court of Appeal. Any issue moving from Sharia Court of Appeal is the final arbiter. Sharia Court of Appeal is the final arbiter. Now get what I mean. Remember, I'm still going to talk about why I gave this line, because I have a reason for doing so. But for the benefit of what I want to teach you now, you see this Sharia Court, any issue that is coming from this Sharia Court is going to this Sharia Court of Appeal. Any issue that is coming from this area court, these are courts in the north, or let me be using N, north, south. So any issue that is coming from area court or upper area court or Sharia court goes to court or Sharia court, and then any issue the Sharia Court of Appeal decide become final. Why? In May 29th, 1999, something very important happened. 12 states in the north had adopted Islamic legal code. The implication of that is that they established what known as Sharia courts, and because of those 12 states that have adopted Islamic legal code, anything that if you want to file an action under that law, you go to Sharia Court. So if you go to Sharia Court now, if the Sharia Court decide this is not part of the content, if Sharia Court decide, you go to Sharia Court of Appeal. That is this Sharia Court of Appeal here. You go to Sharia Court of Appeal, and then whatever Sharia Court of Appeal decide become final. Why? Because the justices of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal is deemed not to be abreast with Islamic legal code. So mainly, no justices in the Supreme Court can be from the south. If somebody like me become Omenyi JSC, you don't expect me to know Sharia legal code. We are not taught. We are only taught at least I can know penal code. But 12 states have adopted Sharia law. So normal training we get in southern part of the country doesn't afford us opportunity to be abreast with this Sharia code. Because of that, Sharia Court of Appeal, which is basically in the north, is the final court when it has to do with Sharia penal code. Are we together? You don't need to know all these things once and for all. Just be rewatching the video and you get to know it. Now, we'll talk about what? Let us come down here. Like I said, I have discussed this one above. And now I want to talk about this one. The difference now is that these ones are known as what? Higher Court of Record or Superior Court of Record. Now, this one are known as Inferior Court of Record. Meaning that this one can comfortably entertain any matter, no matter how big it is. But this one is limited. For instance, it's not of, there are some crime normally magistrate court can handle criminal law, but if you are dealing with treason, felony, they can't go to magistrate court. They are inferior, but these are higher superior court of record. That's why they are known as superior court of record and higher court. These judges here, they can be fined for contempt of court. In fact, you can convict a judge here, but any judge sitting on superior court of record is immune to a lot of things. I don't need to teach you that. That is another pure topic of its own in legal system and constitutional law. But what matters is that you know the hierarchy, because that is what you have come to do. Hierarchy of courts. Now let us talk about magistrate court. Basically, magistrate court deals on petty offenses, minor issues, and any appeal you want to lend from magistrate court goes to state high court. That is the court here, not federal high court. Now, any issue emanating, opposite of magistrate court is district court. If you go to north, that's what I say, north. If you go to north, that is when you obtain what? District court. And as a matter of fact, there is a saying that if a judge is sitting on a criminal matter in magistrate court in the north, it is known as district court. But what I want you to understand is this: magistrate court is the equivalent of district court, but magistrate court is what we use mostly in south. District court is its equivalent in the north. Then we have area court or upper court. Area court or upper court is the same with what? Customary law. These two are the same, but this one is in the south. Remember, the Muslim don't deal on what? Customary law. They have their own distinct, which Islamic law is not customary in nature. It's like a kind of something that's given to them by their prophet Muhammad. Now, but when you are dealing with what? Area courts. Area court deals on, is like a customary court of our own, but it deals on Islamic law. An appeal there goes to what? Court of Sharia Court of Appeal. An appeal from customary court goes to customary court of appeal before it moves to court of appeal. But any issue from Sharia court or area court goes to what? Sharia Court of Appeal, which is the final arbiter, provided it is dealing on 12 states that are dealing on what? Islamic legal code. So with this, you actually now understood the hierarchy of court. The overall message of this topic is that you have to know how the court system works. This one is the father, this one is the mother, this one are the children, then these ones are the grandchildren. Do you understand? Now the question will be, how does the decisions bind themselves? Although I have laid emphasis to it, but we shall consider it more when we are dealing with what? Judicial precedents. That is another part 4 lecture video for second semester we are going to consider. If you have not subscribed, you are going to miss that video. That's why I encourage you to subscribe, because in the next video we shall focus more on judicial precedent, and I will tell you certain how these things bind themselves. Yeah, and I also encourage you, if you are in my school, I'm currently engaged to run for faculty president in my school, and my vision is very sound. By the time I finish with our faculty, you'll be proud of it. I encourage you to support me when the time comes, depending on when you are watching this video. The election should possibly come within May and June, and if you support me, trust me, the dividends you have been seeing me playing here, this thing will be little compared to it. And by the way, that is the only way you can pay me back for the lecture video I've been giving you free of charge. So on our next video, we shall move from there. If you are interested in watching the beginning series of our video, click the link above and you are going to watch it. I will see you there.